we're getting a lot of people, but I'm not sure everybody is here yet.
All right, well, we'll give them a couple more minutes.
Teresa, congratulations in person on the Michael A. Carroll Award.
Thank you, David. It was really a great honor for me. I really appreciated it. As I've said to several people, you know, because of the respect and affection I had for Mike, it was especially meaningful.
Absolutely, and well deserved on your part.
Thanks. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in Holland right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I know you're not spending as much time there as you thought you would, but you're there now.
I was at the beach yesterday.
Wow, good. Is it cold up there?
Yes, but I was dressed for it.
Good. All right, how are we doing here? Maybe we should begin.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think we've got a couple of people with some trouble with audio.
Okay.
We'll try to work through it on our end.
Okay. All right. This is obviously a challenge to do this way, but we're going to make it work because it's important that we get this group together. One of the biggest challenges when you do this is how you do introductions and how you know who's actually talking there. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm not sure if Jessica's on this or not. Is Jessica with us today? Ken, yeah. Could she call the names of people and then they could respond after she calls their name?
I don't have the roster in front of me. I'm sorry. I think Terry might.
Okay, I have a roster. I can do it. I have the roster. I'll do it. So we have some new members this time too. So if I call your name and you're a new member, would you indicate that this is the first time to join us? And as I call your name, I'll also indicate who you're with, I think, as well. Maybe it's easier for me to do that. Although maybe I'll just call your names and then you say, you know, what your position is and who you're with, and if you're new. How about that? We'll try to make that work. So we're going to start with our post-secondary institutions. Mike Beam.
Hello, my name is Mike Beam. I'm Assistant Vice President for University Academic Affairs and Assistant Vice Provost for Undergraduate Affairs at Indiana University, with a focus on our K-12 partnerships. And I'm not new.
No, you are not new. You've been with us all along. Ann Gregory.
Hi, I'm Ann Gregory. I am the Director of the School of Education and Counseling and the Executive Director of Concurrent Enrollment Programs at PNW. I am not new either. I was here last time, I believe.
Great, thank you. Jake Docking. Not sure if Jake is with us yet. Pardon? Jake is he is new with us. He's with the Independent Colleges of Indiana as the Director of Policy and Research. So not sure, he's probably trying to get on, or maybe he's on. Jake, are you on? Okay, so maybe, hopefully he will join us. Rebecca Rishalti. Rebecca, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rebecca Rishalti. I am the Vice President of K-14 Initiatives at Ivy Tech Community College. I'm happy to be here.
And this is your first meeting with us, am I right?
Off and on, yes.
Off and on?
I'm back.
Okay. Nicole Schenkel.
Yes, this is Nicole Schenkel. I am Dean of Academic Early College for Vincennes University, and I am not new. I was a part of this last year.
Great. So those were our post-secondary institution representatives. Now we'll go to K-12 schools. Jason Callahan.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm here.
Great.
Good to be here.
Jason he's the superintendent of Wabash City Schools, and he's been with us for a while doing this work. So thanks. Good to see you, Jason. Jennifer Jensen.
Hi, I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning at the Indiana Department of Education and a former dual credit teacher.
Thomas Eddington. Not sure if he's here. He's the superintendent of the Wawasee Community Schools, maybe joining us, but we'll keep track of that. I know Alicia is not here, but she has a good proxy. Dave Dressler, if you'd like to, you're here, right?
Yes, Dave Dressler, this is my second time for substituting for Alicia. She is on a national webinar today for Ed Week, and happy to be here and happy to see all my old friends.
And we're happy to see you. Todd Beth. Todd, as we know, is the Executive Director of the Indiana Association of School Principals. I'm not sure if he'll be joining us or not. Janet Boyle.
Hi, this is Janet. I'm not sure you can hear me. I'm having audio problems.
We can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. And I serve at SEL in a new role as Director of the Rural Early College Network. I've stepped down as Executive Director and have left it in the capable hands of Carrie Dank.
So, Jessica, we need to change our Dual Credit Advisory Council roster to reflect her new position. John L. Seltzer.
Hi, good afternoon. Hi, John L. Sesser, Executive Director of the Indiana Non-Public Education Association, and I am not new, I am very old.
Well, we're happy to see you again. We have 4 state legislators, Senator Jeff Rotz. Not sure if any of them are with us today. Representative Bob Boehne. Senator Eddie Melton. And Representative Greg Porter. It will be important for us to circle back around with them to give them some highlights of today's meeting since they weren't able to join us. Other stakeholders, Katie Jenner.
Hello, I'm Katie Jenner. I'm Governor Holcomb's Senior Education Advisor. Great to be here today. And one little fun fact I have a lot of face-to-face meetings, but I'm in here exploring, and you can go to the ... and go to together mode. And it shows all of you as if you're in like auditorium seating. It's incredible how I'm looking at you. I have taken a photo of this and I'm sending it to several of you, but I'm just for kicks, you should try it on this call. Go ahead again. Go ahead.
How did you do it again? How did you do it again?
Go to your, this might be life-changing actually.
Go to the dot.
Go to your ... at the top.
Yeah.
Click on it, go to together mode, preview, click on that.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh.
I mean, it's bizarre. So
I think I'm going back the other way. I think it's kind of freaky looking.
Yeah, it is. I'm totally enjoying it this way for the whole meeting. So watching everyone. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm trying to get back so you're not there. There's the gallery view, I guess. Yeah, there we are. I kind of like this better, but Gail Zaharolis?
Yes, I'm with the Indiana State Teachers Association, and I can't top Katie Jenner's suggestion. And I'm not new on this committee or any other committee.
That would be true, Gail. And of course, Ken Sauer.
Yes, I'm here.
From the Indiana Commission for Higher Ed. Have I missed anybody? Right, so I'm going to make just a few comments at the beginning. For some of you who've been with us for a while, you may reflect that actually the Dual Credit Advisory Council goes back all the way to really 2009 when we really started, and it was when actually Tony Bennett was the Superintendent of Public Instruction, and he and I co-chaired the Dual Credit Advisory Council then. It came about even before that in 2008. The General Assembly had created something called the Concurrent Enrollment Partnership, which met for about a year and considered a study of the dual credit because it was really emerging as something that was really changing the landscape in K-12 and higher education both. The council has continued to meet off and on. When we initially met, we were really talking about what dual credit was, how we should come up with a cost structure to figure out how we would pay for dual credit. We worked with the institutions for them to show us sort of what the cost structure was for them to deliver dual credit and how they were partnering with K-12. So it really was introductory work, I would say. But it really jump-started so much important work beyond that. We were looking at the delivery system, what the benefits were for dual credit, why should we be engaging in this, and why should we be trying to increase the number of students who would get dual credit. The group has always consisted of representatives from, as you could just see from our roll call, from higher education, from K-12, from the governor's office has always been a part of this as well. We've also had members from the General Assembly because they have been very engaged in this work as well, and stakeholder organizations like Gales. So we've tried to bring to the table people who would have some reason to care and advocate on behalf of dual credit. During the course of our work, of course, it really shifted in recent years as we continued to be informed by the need to make sure that our dual credit teachers were meeting the credentials from the Higher Learning Commission. I think it's important to also mention, I see Senator Rutz is joining us now as well. I think it's also important to mention that part of the reason you've seen significant growth in early college programs is because the legislature really established this expectation that every school would offer at least 2 dual credit and 2 AP courses. So that, I think, really jump-started the need to make sure that we were following this. And then when it became clear that our teachers were going to have to meet this new Higher Learning Commission directive, and we had an imperative that they were going to have to be provided, we saw a disconnect between our preparation. I think it's also important to mention that when we were looking at how Indiana was doing this, we were ranked very high in terms of the quality of our dual credit. So, you know, we had this new requirement put upon us at the same time that we had a sense that our the delivery system was working quite well. That didn't really matter because there was still this new imperative out there that we were going to have to meet. We succeeded during this time in actually getting a sort of a postponement of the early date, which was going to be very rapid for the turnaround for dual credit. And so we got an extension to 2022. As I think most of the people on the call today know, we then asked for post-COVID another extension for that, knowing that we were losing some of our time to actually double down on these efforts. And so we did get an extension to 2023. But again, that will be here, you know, before you know it. So I think we feel that the work that we're doing is really important. I think it's also important to mention again that this does not apply, those requirements do not apply to career and technical education dual credit, that this is the liberal arts part of the picture. And so we've been working in this regard, and I know Ken will talk about this with the preparation of STEM teachers using the STEM teacher funding that came from the state. And now what's been realized is that we still need to work on that, but we clearly need to work on the credentials for liberal arts dual credit teachers and try to address the financial model that helps them do that. So last thing I would mention is that we will be, somebody might need to mute their phone. So I now see that both Representative Baining and Senator Rotz have joined us as well. So we do have 2 members of the General Assembly with us, so that's great. Late this year, it could be early in 2021, but our goal is by late this year for the commission to put out another dual credit report where we will be showing the benefit to the individual and of dual credit and in terms of, and benefit to the state as well in terms of cost savings. So those are just a few comments at the beginning to provide some context for the work that we're doing. And I'm going to then turn it over to Ken to talk to you very specifically about what our agenda is for today.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Yes, just let me briefly give you an overview of what we're trying to cover today. So the first major item is dealing with dual credit teachers in the liberal arts. The Higher Learning Commission guidelines, which came out that required either a master's degree, that the teacher have a master's degree in the discipline, or that they have a master's degree in education or some other field, and 18 graduate credit hours in the discipline in which they were teaching. So this has been something that we have been monitoring right from the start. Terry Lambert, who has been doing all of the data gathering connected with this work, will provide the latest information on dual credit teachers to give you an idea of where we stand. She'll first take a look at all dual credit teachers and then focus specifically on non-STEM dual credit teachers, which is actually something we want to spend a lot of time on in the first part of the meeting. We'll hear from Trish Woldarczyk, who is Director of Strategic Initiatives at CEL, the Center of Leadership on Learning, the Center of Excellence in Leadership of Learning at UIndy. And thanks to a grant from InvestEd, we are able to provide some opportunities for teachers to become fully qualified. And Trish will spend some time telling us where that initiative is. And this is done in partnership with the Commission. Next, we'll hear from PJ McGrew, who, of course, is Executive Director of the Governor's Workforce Cabinet, and there's been so much work that has been going on in the CTE area and with the next level programs of study. We would hope at the next meeting of this council that we can spend a lot more time on the next level programs of study. But PJ's brief overview will provide a broad context for the last major item on the agenda, which deals with youth apprenticeships. Thanks to some support from the Richard M. Fairbanks Foundation, there's been some exciting work that's been going on regarding piloting youth apprenticeships and figuring out how to try to bring them to scale. And this is really important because youth apprenticeships can provide or deliver more CTE opportunities for high school students. And we really want to look very closely on what's happening in that area. Stephanie Botham from the Send Indiana will be providing some information on this, and we look forward to her presentation. And that's a very quick overview. Of course, we'll end with some next steps. What do we do beyond this meeting? I think there's another meeting that has been contemplated sometime early next year, but we'd like to talk about, sort of process what went on at this meeting and figure out what needs to happen next. So with that, I'm going to ask Terry Lambert to provide an update on the data on liberal arts teachers and their faculty qualifications. I think you were supplied with two tables that she's going to reference. Terry, all yours.
Thanks so much, Ken. Also, I really do want to thank all of our dual credit coordinators who provided us with this data for their high school dual credit teachers for the academic year 2019-2020. And I will hopefully share with you the entire screen with all of the information. And on this first chart, this is all of the 22 institutions that come under that umbrella extension that Commissioner Lubbers referenced. And so it's all of our public institutions, post-secondary, except for Purdue West Lafayette and IUPUI, and 8 of our independent institutions. So this first chart, you'll notice that 50% of our high school dual credit teachers are fully qualified. So we're so pleased to see that. Then in that yellow, you'll notice 30% have a master's, but still need some coursework to obtain that 18-hour credit requirement in the discipline in which they're teaching. And then, of course, the last columns are grouped together at 22% of our teachers really still in need of this master's degree with the content coursework. So we are making progress. We'd like to note that there's been a 7% overall increase in the teachers that have become fully credentialed since last year. And we looked back at 2016 and we've come a long way. We've increased 17% in 2016 with the extension. So we are making progress, but we know we still have a ways to go. But in light of the InvestEd grant that we'll be discussing, we really want to take a look at the non-STEM area. Hopefully are you seeing that? Are you seeing the non-STEM chart? Are you? Okay, good. As you'll notice, we have 30% of the teachers that have a master's degree. They're about 30%, 29.7. They're in the yellow that are going to need some graduate coursework to become fully credentialed. And so those 536 are really the ones who are going to be able to take advantage of this InvestEd opportunity along with the commission and SEL. And so I will just pass it back to Ken and he can share.
Hey, Terry, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead. Is that Katie?
Yeah, it is. So first of all, thank you for always showing this data. It is so helpful to see. My question is, when you look at, someone just popped in my office. Sorry for being distracted there. When we look at this data, do we have any sense of the age or nearing retirement of these teachers? And I'm just thinking, you know, we have 50% who have their masters, which is fantastic. Are these teachers who have 10 more years in them, or are they close to retirement? Do we collect that data at all?
That's a wonderful question, Katie. My computer continues to freeze up, so I may come and go. I apologize, but that's a great question. Jennifer Jensen from the Department of Education and we were talking with Ken about this earlier today, that she's been doing some research to find out what are the ages, so we kind of know where we are, not only with those heading towards retirement, but also looking at pipeline, so looking at that long term. And I think that's more work that we still need to do.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Gail.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned the 536 being where the SEL money would go to. Has that, I mean, I get that we can get the most out of this money based on focusing on those closest to achieving the end result. And I didn't know, number one, if that was a you know, that's going to be a guideline in this or a regulation in this that you fit into that 536. And secondly, I want us to talk about, and I'm sure we will, but the types of materials and content that will be available for groups like mine to get this word out.
And those are some of the things that we're going to cover, that Ken will go into detail, and then Trish will provide more information on. So great questions, Gail. Stay tuned, and we'll cover that. We'll cover that soon.
Terry.
Yes.
Thanks again. I agree. Thank you for pulling this together. It's worth the work. Really, our staff are not unhappy to do it because it's such an important view. Katie asked a great question, and one of the things I find particularly encouraging about this data, well, two things. A, as Terry mentioned, the proportion of folks in the green column has jumped up quite a bit, 7 or 8% or something from last year. That's just fantastic. That's a testament to what STEM Teach has been able to do, both the SEL version and other versions. The Department of Education has given IU some money similar to what Trish is going to talk about. That's helped. But what's interesting to me is we've also increased the total number of dual credit teachers by about 160 teachers. So I think Katie asking about the, you know, kind of what kind of retirement frame cohort these teachers are is really an important question. Although I am pleased to see that we've grown the whole group actually pretty substantially. Consider that we kind of had a couple of years of small dips. I think that's a good sign.
Right, and technically, Mike, we were down just a few from last year, but you're right. When we go back and look at the data from 2016, we have grown tremendously.
Any more questions? If not, maybe we should move on then.
Can I jump in for just a second?
Sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to give an example. I was analyzing this data in January, and then a lot of things happened. And so all I got through was English, and this was based on the year before data. But to your point, I pulled the ages of the teachers. And if we look at the teachers that had a master's degree or higher for just English, you're looking at almost, I'm trying to do this really quick in my head, but you're looking at over 30% of the English teachers are 50 years of age or older. So that's getting us really close to that retirement age. And those are the ones with a master's degree. If I look at the numbers for those that are trying to teach and they just have the bachelor's degree, they're weighting definitely more heavily in 40 and under. And so again, this data is kind of 2 years old because I was analyzing the previous year's data last January. So we'll keep looking at that, but that gives you a little snapshot maybe.
Yeah, Jennifer, that's very helpful. Thanks for that update.
Okay, if there are no more questions, why don't we move on to the Teach Dual Credit Indiana initiative. Let me just give a word or two about the background on this initiative. The Commission was very fortunate to receive a $3 million grant from the Indiana secondary market, which does business as InvestEd. This actually reminds us of an earlier grant more than a decade ago that launched our Indiana e-transcript program, which is so successful. In any case, the Commission has received a $3 million grant, which is specifically focused on the table that Terry was just addressing, the non-STEM teachers, those 536 teachers who have a master's degree but don't have those 18 hours, graduate credit hours in the discipline. That's the group that we're really placing priority on. It seems that's the group that we can most readily qualify. As soon as the Commission received or got positioned to receive this $3 million grant, which needed to be reviewed by the State Budget Committee, and that occurred on August 4th of this year, the Commission thought of the partnership that we have had with SEL actually on many fronts, including the early college partnership that we have in recognizing early colleges. SEL has been a great partner in carrying out that work of endorsing early colleges. SEL has also been the recipient of some 4 STEM Teach grants. The last 2 of those have been focused on qualifying dual credit teachers, but this was in those last 2 grants were focusing on teachers in the STEM areas. So we thought we would turn again to SEL to help us partner in reaching those non-STEM dual credit teachers. That work is well underway. It was a press release that was issued very recently, and we have included in the materials for this meeting a 2-page blurb which describes that initiative. So with that bit of introduction, I'd like to turn this over to Trish Woldarczyk, who can outline further the progress that has been made and where we're headed with this particular initiative. Trish.
Thanks, Ken. Certainly appreciate your compliments of SEL and the work that we've done throughout the state on early college, and certainly our other initiatives as well, but especially these 2 initiatives that I oversee as the Strategic Initiatives Director at SEL, and they're both dual credit credentialing programs for teachers in Indiana, as you said, STEM Teach and then this program, which is Teach Dual Credit Indiana. So I'll go ahead and share a presentation if I can and walk through that. And then, certainly if there are any questions, we can answer those as well. I'm on a Mac, and UIndy does not allow the Microsoft Suite. So bear with me. I feel a little blind not being able to kind of get into the Microsoft program and app. But anyway, I'll go ahead and move forward. I think that my presentation is displaying. Is that correct?
Yes, Trish.
Thank you. So as Ken mentioned, Teach Dual Credit is from a grant from InvestEd to the Indiana Commission for Higher Education, and CEL is administering it for the Commission for Higher Education. We're certainly working hand in hand with them to develop what this program should look like and how we should administer it. So as you know, the goal is to increase the number of teachers that are credentialed to teach dual credit courses in those liberal arts disciplines. We're focusing primarily on communications, English, social studies, and world languages. And if you recall the chart from Terry, you'll see that that's where the highest number of teachers who need those graduate credits in a specific content area, where those highest numbers are. So what's included for teachers? This program will be very similar to STEM Teach. So we will include the tuition for the graduate level courses, and we'll also include books and materials up to $180 per teacher per course. Teachers, I would say, in STEM Teach have been very appreciative that this also includes the books and materials so that there's no out-of-pocket cost for them. So we talk a little bit about, well, how are teachers eligible? So teachers who are teaching in an Indiana public school, including those charter schools, or a private state accredited school, can apply and register for the graduate courses. And then teachers who currently have a master's degree, so those teachers in that yellow area and are currently teaching a dual credit course, those are the teachers that will be served first. I might add, though, that teachers who are slated to teach a dual credit course in a future academic year, and referring back, Katie, to your point about retirement, we do see that often through STEM Teach. So we know that principals and administrators have teachers lined up for future academic years when they do see those retirements coming in the future. And then also teachers who do not currently have a master's degree, they may also apply. So I'll just reach back to that second bullet again. So even though those teachers apply, we have what we kind of call a priority system in STEM Teach, and that'll be very similar in Teach Dual Credit Indiana. So we'll serve those teachers with a master's degree first and are currently teaching dual credit, and then we'll be able to move on to those teachers that are slated to teach dual credit and may not have a master's degree, or maybe they do have a master's degree, but they're still slated to teach dual credit. So we have a nice priority system that we use now, and we'll be able to use that again for this program. Some other teacher requirements. I think we've learned a lot, and I'm sure Mike Beam can attest to this through the Indiana or through the IU program as well. But there are some things that we've learned. First of all, that teachers, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll back up a little bit. So a teacher has to complete our online application. They have to be accepted into the program in order to register for a course. What that means to them and to the higher eds is that if a higher ed is offering a course, that a teacher couldn't go directly to them and say, hey, I want to register for this course. So they have to come through Teach Dual Credit Indiana first. And then this is, Mike, I was referring to you. We do often see that sometimes a teacher can get in over their head in registering for graduate courses. So one of the requirements of our program is, one, that they must attend and they must successfully complete the courses that are being funded through Teach Dual Credit Indiana. And if they can't successfully complete, or they don't show up for courses, they withdraw in the middle, then they are not typically allowed to continue participating. And then we do only allow teachers to register for one graduate course per semester. As you can imagine, teaching full-time and engaging in rigorous graduate courses can be very taxing. So we find that the success rate is much higher taking one graduate course per semester, and it allows us to spread the money out a little bit more. And this, I'll explain just a teeny bit, the last bullet. So we make sure that we let teachers know that they're only eligible to take graduate courses in the content areas that they're not meeting HLC requirements. As you can imagine, we have some teachers who are lifelong learners. So even though they have a master's degree and they've earned their 18 graduate credit hours, they may see another course in their content area that looks very interesting. But again, making sure that we use those funds wisely, we serve the teachers who need to meet HLC requirements first. So taking courses because they sound interesting is great, but you know, it's one of those things that we just don't allow moving forward. So you're probably wondering about a timeline. Time is tight. Certainly, we know we've been working hard over COVID to develop the program and launch it with the Commission for Higher Education. Many of you probably saw the press release that went out recently. That allowed us to begin working with the companies that will develop our website and our teacher portal. But the website is not ready yet, so we have built a temporary website. You can still access it through what will be our normal website, which is teachdualcredit.org. But until the permanent website is up and going, there's a lot of information on the temporary website, not only for higher eds, but also for teachers. The teacher portal is a little bit different, and I'll talk about that in a future slide. But for higher eds, what we're seeing as their timeline, and I've had many questions from higher eds already who want to participate, but their proposals to offer courses and hopefully course sequences, so an 18 credit course sequence, is due November 13th. And then we will review those course proposals, our team and with the commission, and we'll notify those higher eds of the courses that we've accepted into our course catalog, hopefully by November 23rd. We know that they need some time to plan ahead, with the departments internally at their institutions. And so we think that this will give them enough notice to get that groundwork laid. Meanwhile, on the teacher side, our only call to action for them at this point until our teacher portal is up and running is that they would complete an interest form for us. And we are hopeful that our teacher portal will be up and running by December 4th. And at that time, then they can apply for acceptance into the program. But right now, we are taking a short survey from teachers, and we've already had over, last I looked this morning, over 265 teachers in the liberal arts fields who have completed that interest form to let us know that they're interested in taking courses for dual credit credentialing. And just a few more details. So how do they apply? This is probably one of the most common questions that we get. There is an application that'll be live through the portal when it's ready, but we've developed an apply page on that temporary site for teachers at teachdualcredit.org. And so it lets them know the types of things that'll be asked for in the application. One, I think that is the most noteworthy, is that they will need a letter from a school administrator acknowledging that they are teaching dual credit courses in a specific content area, or that they're slated to in the future, again, perhaps because of retirement or some other reason. So after they submit that application, we have a lot of auto replies that are part of the portal, and so they'll receive an auto reply. That way, they know that we got their application. And then we go to work. So our staff verifies through the Indiana Department of Education, and then through their school, that they are who they say they are, that they're an Indiana teacher teaching a certain content area, that they have a valid license, and just, everything that makes them qualify for the program. And then we would notify them, hopefully within a couple days that we've accepted their application, again, using that priority system of teachers with a master's degree currently teaching dual credit first. And then we always tell them to watch their email and watch the website for instructions and that time-sensitive information so that they can register in time and get, all the materials from the higher eds that they need in order to get started in a course. Another common question we get is, do teachers have to apply again? No. So once they're accepted into the program, they do not need to apply again. They only apply once. A little bit about our online portal. So it's only for teacher use. So, oftentimes higher eds will want to visit that site just to learn more about it, but we push them to the website. That's our information for teachers and higher eds and anybody who's interested in the program, but the portal is just for teachers. So that's where they apply, provide us, the relevant information that we need. That's where they register. That's where they access their registration, their course taking history. They can update contact information, view schedules for upcoming semesters, etc. Announcements, anything that they would need to know. It's kind of like a registration system at a college, if you will. And you may be wondering when and how long courses will be available. So given the funding that we have at this point and working with Ken and Terry at the commission and kind of mapping out how many courses we could offer each semester, the size, how many people can register in each one of those courses, we think we have 9 semesters. And so it kind of depends on the higher ed institution and, how they set their semesters. But we will certainly be able to offer courses this winter/spring. That's generally kind of January through May timeline. We call it summer 1 and summer 2 because some institutions have 2 summer sessions and some only have 1. But we would count that as 2 semesters for the summer. Back again in the fall, back again for the following winter/spring 2022. Again, a possibility of 2 semesters in the summer of 2022, again in fall, and then again in winter/spring 2023. And again, that puts us right up against that HLC deadline of 2023. So trying to get as many teachers through the credentialing process as possible before 2023. And then, well, what's expected of a higher ed? We certainly, I think, have a lot of things, again, that we have learned through STEM Teach, but we designate a campus liaison. And so that campus liaison is our primary point of contact with the higher ed institution. So they work within departments, they work with, accounting, financial aid, possibly admissions. And so they just kind of streamline that process, that application for teachers to actually enroll in courses at their higher ed institution. We make sure that they understand, again, that they're going to receive all the registration information directly from Teach Dual Credit Indiana. So, again, teachers do not go there to the higher ed institution, even if they're offering a course, to try to be funded through this. We ask that the higher eds communicate directly with those registered teachers once they have those lists from us, and that it's in a timely manner. So as you can imagine, teachers are planning ahead, and so they want to make sure that they have access to whatever the learning platform is, that they have their textbooks, that they have everything well in advance. They like to look at materials and syllabi and everything before the class starts. So that's one of the things that we really ask of the higher eds, that they're reaching out to them well before the course starts, and not just a couple days before. We certainly expect that the higher eds are going to ask for additional verification and information from the teachers. So we do not collect social security numbers or driver's license numbers, anything to that nature. So we make sure that the teachers know that the higher eds may request additional information from them as well. We certainly expect that they're going to use their own individual learning management system. So, I think just a learning point from earlier on, we won't provide, Blackboard or anything specific for these courses. Once the courses are offered from the institution, they use their typical method of delivery for them. And then the higher eds will be reimbursed after the course concludes for tuitions and books. And those checks will come directly from Teach Dual Credit Indiana. And that teachers would not make any payments, wouldn't receive any bills or invoices from the higher ed institutions. And that's where, certainly the accounting and financial aid departments come into play at the higher eds. So this is just kind of a closing slide, if you will, the Teach Dual Credit Indiana flyer that I think you received with the meeting materials. Just share those, on your social media platforms. With any of your schools of ed, if you are at a higher ed institution and you have teachers who have completed master's programs and are out in the field teaching, that they would share those with those people, that they would share them with any of their local school districts, etc. So I won't repeat this. This is certainly what we've all of us have said all along about why teach dual credit courses, and we know the answer to that. And I think that's the impetus for the name of the program. It's more of a directive. So it's Teach Dual Credit Indiana. So asking schools and asking teachers to teach dual credit so that, certainly our Indiana students can benefit from having access to dual credit courses while they're still in high school. And why provide funding? I think it's obvious that certainly it's a barrier for schools and teachers to fund these graduate courses or master's degrees. On their own. So certainly grateful that we're able to have this grant to fund the program. I think that's it. Certainly if you have any questions, if we have time now, I think we're happy to take them. The commission's happy to take them. You can always email me. And then I would say just to make sure you check out the FAQs, make sure you check out the website. There is a lot of information on teachdualcredit.org. Even though it is temporary, we've loaded tons of info there.
Trish, this is Rebecca from Ivy Tech, and I want to start by just expressing extreme appreciation to InvestEd and CHE and CEL for ensuring that this funding is available and ensuring that these logistics are in place for dual credit instructors to gain access to additional programming. I wanted to get your perspective on what more we could do as post-secondary institutions who are serving these dual credit instructors directly. So, we've provided access to all of the information that's been sent out, and obviously the press releases have been phenomenal as well. Is there more that we can do, more partnership, more strategic efforts? Since we know these dual credit instructors directly, I would love to know what additionally we might be able to provide. And maybe something we can talk about offline as well.
Yeah, I would say we've certainly had a great partnership, with Vincennes and Ivy Tech. They've really been great in sending out information to the teachers that are teaching the dual credit courses. So we're very grateful for that. So I would say continued efforts in that regard, it would be much appreciated. I don't know, Ken and Terry, do you have anything to add?
No, except that we would welcome suggestions from anyone in terms of reaching out to teachers to let them know about these opportunities. I think we're also particularly interested in trying to reach teachers of color. It's important that we try to have some diversity in the participation in this program. So, but no, we're just welcome. We would welcome any suggestions, and maybe these could occur offline as to how we might better communicate these opportunities and make sure that all of the funding that InvestEd has made available to us is fully utilized.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks again.
Any other questions, or are we ready to move on?
I have just a couple quick ones. Is the STEM program, grant program, still going on? And if so, is there anything we need to be doing to keep that moving as well? Or are those who are in it, like this one says, once you're in it, you continue to go? I mean, are the slots filled up kind of for the STEM version of
Thank you. Great question. The slots are certainly not filled up. We are still accepting applications through STEM Teach. We've not seen a significant decline, but we have seen a slight decline in teachers registering for courses since COVID. So, we are concerned that teachers are they're not taking a break, but they're certainly under a lot of stress, and so adding a graduate course at this time has just been too much. So I think we've seen a slight decline, but we do definitely have space. So, happy for you to send any teachers to both programs. We have room.
And then the other real quick one was on the issue of paying for the materials. I'm assuming, since you kind of say at no cost to the teacher, that when a course gets approved or a sequence gets approved, that the materials part of it, instructional materials, kind of fall into that $180 range, or
we've heard from higher eds that's is a pretty generous amount for an allowance for textbooks and materials.
Okay.
In some cases, they don't utilize the entire amount because maybe they're using an online textbook, or it's just less expensive. But yes, we've not heard much in regards to that's not enough to provide a textbook or material.
It's been a long time since I was in school myself, so I just didn't know. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Trish, thank you. This is Jason Callahan, and thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to Cell. If I can get the slides, I can send that to Tom, and I could send that to JT Koopman for the Superintendent's Association, distribute, get that out to schools. And I don't know if Todd showed up. I'm sure he could do the same to the principals. But the other question I had, you talked about the financial barriers. I'm not sure if this advisory group or anyone has assessed other barriers. I know for Wabash City, sometimes it's access, sometimes it's availability of classes, sometimes it's just lack of seeing that articulated pathway to credentialing. And so not sure if we've done any additional work on identifying other barriers outside of the financial pieces.
Jason, I'll just quickly add from STEM Teach and hopefully from Teach Dual Credit Indiana, we really strongly suggest to the higher eds that the classes are online, just so that it's available to teachers across the state of Indiana. In some cases, especially the sciences where there were labs early on, there was some hesitation to do that. But I think we're in a place now that we've learned just with COVID that these things can all be accomplished through an online course. So we haven't seen the proposals yet for Teach Dual Credit Indiana, but the verbiage is there for the higher eds to propose courses in an online format.
Well, you can see from Trish's very comprehensive and very capable presentation why the Commission wanted to partner with Cell in administering this grant. I've mentioned the great partnership that we've had with Cell for many years. That goes back to the days of David Dressler and continued with Janet Boyle, and now is continuing with Carrie Downey. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Trish. Look forward to continuing to work with you as this initiative is implemented. I know PJ McGrew is on the line. PJ, would you like to jump in now and provide an update on all of what's happening, and that's a lot, in career and technical education?
Yeah, Ken, thanks. I will be brief since I know our friends from Ascend are on the line and would like to talk to you all today about their modern apprenticeship program that they announced earlier this week. So, I think before they get into that, I think having a brief overview of where we are going with the CTE system in Indiana would be helpful, because that is really going to be leveraged as they begin to pilot these modern apprenticeships. So, the CTE in Indiana used to be kind of separated out. It was overseen by the Department of Education in the K-12 space and the Department of Workforce Development in the post-secondary space. And in 2019, the governor's workforce cabinet transitioned that authority over underneath us, and we really began to look at CTE more as a seamless system across secondary and post-secondary. And it really called into question, as we did a deep dive on some of what was happening, as to why more students that don't take dual credit courses that actually count toward or lead to a credential, and why aren't more high school students earning a stackable credential before they graduate high school. So for instance, last year, only 10% of our CTE students earned 6 or more dual credits. And if, obviously, moving forward with graduation pathways, one of the grad pathway options is for students to earn at least 9 dual credits. So wanting to make sure that alignment exists from a dual credit perspective, as we are thinking through how to redesign our CTE course offerings and system, and make sure that students across the state, whether they're in high school or at the post-secondary level, have those similar outcomes. And so our redesign criteria was really making sure that all of our pathways aligned to middle and high skill occupations. We wanted to improve the quality and consistency of CTE programming across the state. Wanted to ensure that high school students can earn those post-secondary credentials, not just dual credits, but thinking about a CT or a TC, for example, at Ivy Tech. Wanting to expand opportunities for work-based learning participation for CTE students. Again, as a reference point, last year only 2.6% of our CTE participants participated in a work-based learning experience. So in April, we submitted our state plan for both CTE and workforce moving forward, and outlined within that plan was that we were going to measure quality of CTE programs based upon all 3 criteria that the federal government gave us the option to include. And so those are, dual credits earned, post-secondary credentials obtained, so not just a TC or a CT, but also that could include an industry recognized certification as well. And then also the work-based learning experiences that students participate in. And so then that really brings us to the work-based learning aspect of this all. And we've really thought from a state perspective about work-based learning really being along this continuum, starting in, elementary, middle school years with that career awareness or career exploration piece, and then moving into career preparation and career training in high school, and that transition to post-secondary, whether that is on to additional post-secondary education and training, or directly then into the workforce, which really brings us to, I think, this, the career training aspect where the modern apprenticeship program would fall. So how do we leverage our courses and that alignment between secondary and post-secondary CTE to be able to deliver, or provide students an opportunity to participate in those programs that really pair classroom-based instruction with the practical use and knowledge of those skill sets while they're out there in the workforce, which is, I think, very exciting if we think about what Ascend is embarking upon with Employ Indy and other partners, as we think about, how do we utilize apprenticeship as a delivery model for our CTE programs moving forward, so that we have students not only getting that classroom-based instruction piece, but then also the experiences that they need to move into employment or to transition to additional post-secondary and training opportunities after the fact. So I know that's a very short, brief overview of everything that's happening. within CTE. And as Ken mentioned, we want to come back and talk to you all a little bit, more about where we're moving with the next level programs of study and how we're really transitioning from this variability within the course structure of CTE to really more defined and aligned dual credit opportunities to those CTs and TCs so that students can graduate high school and be able to transition right on into the workforce. So I will stop there, answer any questions that you all might have, and then turn it over to Stephanie.
PJ, just a compliment to your team. I really, really appreciate all the work that your team has led. For those of us who have been in K-12, or I'm looking at some of my colleagues there right now, this has been long needed. And it's such important work that you're tying the partnership with our workforce, to our higher ed institutions, to our K-12. So just really, really appreciate it. And then the other piece that I'll draw that'll be a segue probably to Stephanie and team is your alignment is very intentional. It's very strategic. And it allows our students in kind of that backwards design model to hopefully leave high school with the opportunity to have a high value credential or certification of some kind, and a work-based learning experience as well. And we have work to do, but just hats off to your team for really kicking us off.
Yeah, I think, Katie, that last point is something that I think we really need to dig into a little bit deeper now that we have that alignment between secondary and post-secondary, and we're seeing more opportunities within the work-based learning space, in particular apprenticeship. And I think something that the Dual Credit Advisory Council will want to think about moving forward potentially is how do we ensure that student learning counts regardless of where it's happening? So if part of that related instruction is happening at the workplace through an employer, how are we counting that as potential dual credit when they're not learning at all, sitting in a classroom with an instructor that's been certified and credentialed by the post-secondary institution? So how do we look at that moving forward and make sure that students, that learning counts regardless of where it happens?
And I see Jason and Tom. I see you in my auditorium seating view, and kind of smiling as PJ's talking through this. I mean, this is going to be a different way of thinking, right? I mean, it's an innovative way of looking at our K-12 space, and we're going to need certainly some leaders to try some of this and learn from it, and we'll improve from there. But again, thanks for your work.
Yeah, with perfect segue to Stephanie to talk about the pilot that they're getting ready to run.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to be here, Teresa and Ken and Terry. I come to you as a former 8th grade teacher. I taught math in the Indianapolis Public Schools. I also have a master's degree, so I was very interested in your earlier conversation around, making sure our teachers have the credentials that are necessary to teach these different courses. It's critical. But really today I come to you more as a practitioner who's really thinking about how do we, as PJ and Katie so eloquently put it, really blur the lines between some of our education of students, between our education and workforce system. And how do we ensure that what students are learning and sort of as mastery of competencies, how does that get valued in our education system? And so I'm excited to be here to share a little bit. I'm going to try to share my screen here about youth apprenticeship, which, as PJ mentioned, is really a model for delivering high quality education and training that it has really started to sweep into the national discussion across the country in K through 12 and higher ed. And so I really represent today a coalition of folks. Many of them are actually on this phone call, including Representative Baining, Senator Rotz. Obviously, PJ and Katie know a little bit about this, Indianapolis Public Schools, Rebecca on this call, CHE, IDOE, CEL, Jennifer I saw also represented here, and then obviously my partners at Employee Indy. So there's a group of us who've all been meeting to really talk through some of these concepts. So we're grateful to the Fairbanks Foundation for their lead gift, which really helped us to move this work forward. So if you heard our announcement earlier this week, that was really to announce our pilot within Central Indiana which is being led by Ascend and Employ Indy. And then we also are leading a community of practice. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of those two things and then tell you how that relates to you all on the Dual Credit Advisory Committee. So just to take a step back quickly here in terms of a modern youth apprenticeship. So you might just be wondering what we mean when we say that term. What is a modern youth apprenticeship? And it's really a structured work-based learning program that starts in high school, but is meant to be a bridge to post-secondary and to be inclusive of post-secondary credits and credentials, as PJ already mentioned. So really what we want to see as part of these modern apprenticeships is paid employment, on-the-job learning, the related instruction that PJ was mentioning that happens on the job, college credentials and credit. And then really an important part of this is the social capital and the network that the students are going to earn as part of the work on site with the employers. So the reason we call it modern is so you may have an idea of what apprenticeship is. It might be trades, and we are very supportive of trades here in Indiana, but we also want to expand this beyond the trades and think about IT, business operations in places where we have some great jobs and opportunities for our students, how we expand apprenticeship more broadly in the high school space into some of those areas as well. Why do we believe so deeply in this work? I hope by telling you I'm a former teacher and I've worked at a systems level now. There's a few things that we deeply believe here that are important, both as we design programs related to youth apprenticeship, but also as we're thinking about the education and workforce system we're attempting to adapt as part of this experience. One is that we ensure that we have industry standards helping to guide the experience that the student is having. So how do we make sure that we understand those competencies and that they are integrated deeply into the experience? And then there's a broader question of how that's integrated back into our education system, as PJ already mentioned. Beyond that, we care about it being data-driven and accountable. Ken and I are having great conversations, and the Governor's Workforce Cabinet Subcommittee on Work-Based Learning, we're all having great conversations around how do we track the data? What data do we track? How do we know if we're successful? And how do we ensure that we're able to package that up for all of the folks involved in these experiences to ensure that we can continuously improve those opportunities and outcomes for students? Equity really is at the center for me and at the center for many of our partners. So we know, and particularly in this group, we need more pathways to and through post-secondary credentials and degrees. It's a big goal for our state. We know not enough students are getting through. So youth apprenticeship is another delivery mechanism for helping students to take a huge step forward and understanding what that path to post-secondary credentials and degrees could look like for them. And we're excited about this being a way to help deliver on that promise for our state. And then another one I want to touch on is portability. So one of the big issues that we're trying to figure out with our pilot is how do we ensure that the credentials and the credits, dual credits or dually enrolled credits, are actually going to be portable for the students so that, to PJ's earlier point, they have more choices. So can they take those credits and go to a transfer to a 2-year degree institution or to a 4-year degree institution if they want to get a bachelor's degree, or do some combination of work and continuing to sort of stack different credits towards degrees and credentials throughout their lifetime. And so that portability piece is critical for us around how do we build our system to enable that. Now, again, I'm preaching to the choir here. Many of you have spent many years working on that, and we're really grateful for that. But we're excited to continue to push the envelope there to figure out how to ensure portability is a part of that student's journey and that they're able to deliver on that. We are able to deliver on that. So in terms of our pilot in Central Indiana, we've been just blown away by the employer support of this work. We've had 16 employers say they were interested in piloting modern youth apprenticeship in their company across multiple occupations. So IT, advanced manufacturing, business operations, and healthcare are our big ones. We also have many K through 12 partners already engaged. IPS, as I already mentioned, we also have we have some of our large CTE friends here listed, but we've been taking a lot of educator input here to try to understand what the barriers and challenges are as we think about building these experiences in partnership with our high schools. that's a little preview of what I'm about to tell you, why I think I'm here today and in front of this group. And then the last piece is we're super grateful to our post-secondary partners at Ivy Tech and Vincennes for being great wraparound partners with their dual credit and dual enrollment relationships. That's really how this started, was how do we start to build upon the great work and the foundation that's been laid within these K through 12 schools to help ensure our students are going to get those credits at that post-secondary level. So that's an update in terms of our pilot. We do launch, we launched officially, but our students will start those experiences next fall, next summer and fall in 2021. And we're taking this year to really plan it all out, because as you all know, there is a lot to coordinate to ensure that we have a high quality experience. The second piece of what we're doing is a community of practice. And so you can see a variety of logos here, many of you on the phone. Both we have statewide partners and we also have local partners, intermediaries, schools, etc., all really coming together to talk about what's the education and workforce system that we need to ensure that our students do have more choices and can actually achieve economic mobility. So how do we ensure that they get credit for what they're learning throughout their journey and then be able to move on from there? So that community of practice is where we started by talking with practitioners. So we talked to our K through 12 partners, our post-secondary partners, to understand what are the biggest barriers and challenges as we are trying to build out these opportunities, these modern youth apprenticeships. And a variety of things came up. Things like, how does this align to grad pathways, which I think PJ's really helped us to solve some of that through our conversations. Dual credits, I'll talk a little bit more about. Obviously, availability and some other things have come up. And then a variety of others like data and accountability, equity, and employer engagement. So how do we do this work and scale it over time? And then what we did is we took that and we escalated those challenges and barriers to the systems builder. So that includes my friends at CHE, Teresa and Ken and Terry. We wanted to bring those issues forward and say, you know, are these things that different statewide entities could tackle in terms of how can we break down barriers to allowing our schools, both at the high school and post-secondary level, to deliver these opportunities. So what I want to bring before you today is just a couple of items. One, we're incredibly grateful to this group, to CHE, to the higher ed institutions, because as you look at our dual credit landscape, particularly on the academic side, there's been tremendous work done in the state to really move that piece forward. And so when I look across other states and I'm asking questions, our landscape is way ahead of a lot of the other groups that we're talking with that are trying to do this work. I think where we're interested in continuing to push forward, and I appreciate PJ's work on programs of study and thinking about our technical side of the house here, but there's a couple of opportunities that have risen to the surface for this group and sort of more broadly for us to contemplate. The first one is we've talked a lot about how do we validate the learning that's happening outside of the classroom. So you heard us talking about these robust, rich experiences where students are doing work at an employer site. So we had talked about, would there be a way to use prior learning assessments or similar approaches to be able to sort of validate that that competency was learned, so that we could understand how those competencies that the student has mastered on the work site, how that aligns to post-secondary credit. So that was one of the topics that came up, which we understand we care about quality. We care about ensuring that students are learning at the highest levels. But if they're doing that and able to demonstrate that they've learned that competency, even if it was delivered on a work site, is there a way to find credit? That's one issue or opportunity that came up in our group. One is a broader question, which I think PJ is thinking a lot about, but the second opportunity was around how do we as a state think about what are coordinated processes for identifying competencies for a specific occupation or a specific pathway. What's our process for identifying those competencies and translating it into a course sequence and framework between secondary and post-secondary? And how do we ensure that it's all then aligned and mapped up so our students can take it in high school and then be able to translate that credit as they go forward? And again, if you're familiar with some of the other states here, there's a great model in Ohio where they're doing some of this on the technical side, but it's about, our question was more, right now it seems kind of haphazard in terms of there's some great work in pockets, but what's our statewide sort of cohesive, coordinated framework for identifying those competencies, breaking them down, and then aligning them between post-secondary and secondary on an ongoing basis. So those were just, again, I speak not as an expert. I probably said some things that, you know, I only know this much about what I'm talking about, but I speak as a voice of a lot of other practitioners who are trying to build these robust experiences and are really excited to learn how we can better align all of this on behalf of the student. So ultimately, our students are able to the passion for what they're learning and not have to repeat, and then be able to continue on their educational journey. So that's all I have, Ken. I'm happy to answer questions. I know PJ is on, and I have my friends from Employ Indy, Marie, and PJ, or excuse me, Chad Timmerman, also from Ascend, can help answer some questions as well.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. Really appreciate your enthusiasm, which we share, by the way. So
Yes.
we do have some time for questions.
Yeah, this is Gail. At some point, I think you mentioned, it was a few slides ago maybe, breaking down barriers in post-secondary. And I just wondered if you might talk further on that, you know, what your thinking is on what those barriers are.
Sure. So I mean, I can leap off. Chad and Marie, I'd love for you all to be able to jump in as well. I think really on the post-secondary side here, I think it's a matter of right now when we're doing pilots, we're kind of beholden to whoever that individual high school has an individual agreement with around dual credit or dual enrollment. And so that can be okay, because maybe we have everything that we need to be able to put together that robust experience. But in certain schools, we don't have the relationships at that high school to be able to deliver the related instruction so that the student can continue to get that credential or post-secondary credit. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, how can we expand it, or how can we build new relationships? But it's a very one-to-one process. And it's a bit of a challenge to figure out how to expand that and make that happen. Also, just in terms of, so just ensuring that if we do build it with Ivy Tech, will that student be able to take that credential and those competencies, be able to transfer to a 4-year degree and be able to continue building upon that? Now, again, there's been some great work in all of those spaces, but it's not clear to me that we can answer that question for every student, for every pathway that we're trying to build, and know that we can deliver on that promise for each student. So Chad, do you want to just jump in real quick and kind of fill in what I missed on that front?
And also if you could speak to barriers at the secondary level too. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Stephanie, can I hop in there real quick?
Oh, of course, PJ, go ahead.
So Gail, I think this comes down to kind of one of the things that we discovered as we were trying to create that alignment piece, right? And I think it boils down to the inconsistencies in the delivery and the variability in how we allow CTE to be offered right now. And so that's really one of the reasons why we embarked upon this whole redesign process, because currently we have many of our advanced level courses, say Advanced Manufacturing 1, can be offered from anywhere from 1 credit per semester to 3 credits per semester. And so if we're thinking about how that aligns then to dual credit opportunities at Ivy Tech or Vincennes, it's a drastically different student that's enrolled in that course for 1 credit versus a student that's enrolled in that course for 3 credits, and how you can map that then to post-secondary credentials. So taking the full scope and spectrum of that 3 credit experience that we allow some students to enroll in, and breaking that down into smaller courses that can be delivered regardless of master schedules and all of that at the local level, so that we don't have that wide range of variability and create better consistency for student outcomes as they go through CTE.
So This is Anne Gregory. I have a question about learning outcomes and the connection between the workforce and the workspace, and how those those concerns and needs are being implemented in the student learning outcomes of the CTE courses. In other words, what's that articulation process? And perhaps, PJ, this is getting to that idea of standardization of course credit offerings, and how that can then articulate into the 2 years or the 4 years.
Yeah, and I think for us, it really was, I think mentioned earlier, kind of back by Katie, backward designing our CTE program. So taking a look at where we had CTE pathways already in existence and how those aligned to the pathways at Ivy Tech or Vincennes, and then working backward from the degree and creating that course alignment of sequences, and essentially utilizing the learning objectives that are outlined within the post-secondary coursework as the secondary standards within our CTE courses. Now, I think kind of the next step or next iteration of that, to kind of lead off of what Stephanie was talking about earlier, is how do you get industry review and buy-in from a statewide perspective to ensure that those learning objectives are really addressing the competencies from the employer community, and ensuring that they have faith that students that go through these programs, regardless if they're in high school or at Ivy Tech or Vincennes, really have the ability to do what we thought they were going to do coming out of those courses. And so that's how we've approached it right now. So we've done the course alignment piece and the standards and learning objective alignment piece, and now it really is about doing that industry review component, to where we can either plug in some new standards or learning objectives that need to be there, or remove old ones that might not be relevant any longer, especially with some of the changes that we're seeing in the economy.
Yeah, thanks.
Any
Are
other?
there other questions?
No. So maybe Teresa, you want to speak to next steps?
Well, first, thank you, Stephanie and your team. It's been a pleasure to work with you on this work, and I know we're just still at the cusp of a lot of important work that we need to figure out going forward. So we'll continue this discussion, and I know the partnership between the Commission and PJ and everyone else is really, I think it's moving in the right direction. So I think the only thing that we have left, if there are, no final comments from members of the council, we want to bring you back together again. I think we're thinking probably in terms of February. We think there are so many things happening right now that it'll be important for us to touch base about how we're doing with all of the programs that we provided some oversight with today. So Ken, I'm not sure we've actually set a date, but I think you and I talked about mid-February.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did.
Okay. So if there's anything in particular that members of the council would like to make sure that we include at that particular time, please let us know. Any final comments from any of you who are in the meeting today? Any final comments from you, Ken?
No, I think it's a great discussion, and to look forward to the work that's going to occur between now and the next meeting, and then the next meeting of the council in February. We'll try to circle around some possible dates to try to maximize participation of council members.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and we'll be in touch.
Take care.
Thanks.